Everyone knows Batman The Dark Knight, but not many people know that there were 2 sequels to it. So today we're going to be giving you all of the Dark Knight saga, all 3 parts to it, and you're going to see just how crazy and out of control this series gets as it goes. These are videos lifted off of the Comicstorian channel, where 5 days a week we bring you comic book related content. Now let's get into the video.
It's been 10 years since Gotham had Batman watch over the streets. And in that time, the most terrifying gang known as the Mutants has steadily risen to gain control over Gotham. So much that they've even publicly threatened Commissioner Gordon as he approaches his retirement on his 70th birthday. Later that night, Bruce meets with Jim to have a drink and a toast to Batman after having survived long enough to retire. Bruce says he didn't, but Bruce Wayne is alive and well. Jim lights a cigar and he asks how Dick Grayson has been, and Bruce tells him that he knows that he hasn't spoken to him in 7 years. But before Jim could ask any further, Bruce then says that perhaps it's best that they call it a night. He turns to leave and Jim squeezes his shoulder, telling him that what he needs is a woman in his life. But as Bruce is leaving, he thinks that Jim may think he knows what he needs, but the creature inside of him riffs and snarls, telling him that there is something else that he needs. Because the night comes, and with it, the city smell. A smell that calls out to him, the Batman. Bruce looks at the street light and he thinks that he brought him here again. The very place where he was born, to show him how little everything has changed. Just then, 2 men appear with knives, talking to each other, asking if they should cut this one up. They do have a quota to meet, and based on instinct, Bruce grits his teeth and he puts his back to a post. He gets ready for whatever the thugs decide to do. And one of the thugs says they can't get into murders when the victim is into it. They should just hit up the arcade. Later that day, the news reports that Doctors Wolper and Williams have been working with the criminal Harvey Dent for the past 3 years to make a breakthrough. With Wolper's treatment of his psychosis and Williams' treatment of his face, Harvey has been released into the world as rehabilitated. Many people have had differences in opinion on the matter, but it is thought that with the success of Harvey, many other criminals may be able to follow in Harvey's shining example, such as the Joker. As the night comes like any other, Bruce finds himself dreaming of the time that he came face to face on his demons. The Bat. It glided with ancient grace, unwilling to retreat, eyes beaming, untouched by love or joy or sorrow. And when Bruce opens his eyes, he finds himself back in the cave. The huge, empty, silent cave. The cobwebs have grown and the dust has thickened. And inside of him, Batman laughs, cursing him at the same time. He tries to free himself, struggling relentlessly, but he must not come. Bruce has given his word for Jason Todd to never allow the Batman to come again. While Bruce thinks back to the old times, Alfred turns on the light, telling him that it is hardly time for antiques. It is 3:30. As Bruce walks back up the stairs into the light, Alfred stops him, asking, "Whatever happened to your mustache?" The following night, Bruce sits up late like he always does, watching the television and quietly drinking. A voice on the TV then says that it is time for their presentation of Hollywood's finest, Tyrone Power and the Mark of Zorro. Bruce grabs the remote, thinking that he should have checked the listing so that he could have avoided it, but then again, it's just a movie, isn't it? What harm is there in watching a movie? But then images of that dreadful night appear, the night that his parents were senselessly murdered. He quickly grabs the remote to change the channel, and as he does, he hears report after report of killings, of murders, of rape and mutilations. Bruce gets up from his chair, knocking over a statue, and a voice in his head tells him, "The time has come. You know it in your soul, for we are one and the same. There is no escape." Once Bruce finally comes to, he checks his voicemail, and the first is from Superman, telling him that he'll be out of town for a few weeks. The next was from Selena Kyle, stating that she was lonely and wanted to see him. But all Bruce could focus on was the Bat flying ever so closely to the window and finally crashing through it. Later that same night, the dark cloud falls over Gotham, bringing with it rain and thunder. And in the dingy back of it all, a woman is mugged. But before the attacker could stab her, a hand reaches out, grabbing them. The woman looks back to see nothing there, and the lightning strikes. Meanwhile, at the arcade, the 2 young girls, Carrie and Michelle, see that same bolt of lightning, and Michelle looks around, stating that they really shouldn't have come this way. The mutants hang out around here. Carrie tells her it'll be fine, plus they have plenty of light around them. Nothing bad is going to happen. And just as she says that, the lights go out and the sound of men scuffling can be heard. A group of men surround the girls, all inching closer and closer with their knives drawn. And just as one of them is about to stab down, a hand reaches out, grabbing him. The flicker of lights come back on and the entire place is lit back up. And that same thug is thrown into an arcade sign. The days go by and Bruce tells himself that he should be in agony. He should be aching, sore. But instead he is a man of 30. No! He is 20 again. The rain on his chest feels like a baptism. He is born once again. And as the time Time passes. Bruce went out as Batman, stopping the local thugs. But one night he finds a dollar coin, Harvey's dollar coin. And the news reports that Harvey Dent is back in the news, seemingly have returned to his life of crime. And the days that come, things return to the way that they were. Batman stopping crime, Jim providing him with tips. And Jim mentions that in the last payroll robbery, 2 helicopters were stolen. One was a state-of-the-art military fighter and the other was a transport vehicle. Bruce says that if this is Harvey, they just have to catch him. The trick will be to keep him alive. As he goes out, as Batman readying himself, he hears the 2 helicopters coming, and Dent, or whoever that is sure to be in the newer helicopter. Batman watches with his rifle through the scope, seeing the transport landing on the building, and the second firing a missile into one of Gotham's twin towers. It doesn't take long for Batman to take out the men in the transport, and then he finds a bomb. He disarms it, and a broadcast goes out with Two-Face telling everyone, "I have 2 bombs capable of destroying each of the twin towers. My price is $5 million. I would have made it too, but I've got bills to pay." Batman watches the military helicopter get ready to land on the second building, and he takes aim with his rifle. He fires a hook into the second building, and he starts to run across it, and as he does, the men from the helicopter start shooting at him. The vest that he's wearing takes the brunt of the force, and then Batman fires a second shot into the helicopter. The change in weight shifts it, causing Two-Face to fall out. Batman swings in, grabbing him, and the 2 of them go crashing into a building. As they struggle, Harvey takes off his bandages, telling Bruce, "Look at me, I'm fixed. Both sides match." Batman does look, and he sees himself. He sees a reflection, just a reflection. With the news of Batman's return, the city is divided on whether they should support him or have him arrested. But that doesn't stop Carrie Kelly, a young girl who watched Batman take out the thugs at the arcade. She wants to help him. It took her 2 weeks to save up her lunch money to buy a Robin suit, and it's time for her to go out and do some good. Except after nearly falling off of her own apartment building, she figures that maybe she has a lot more to work on before she's ready to go out for the night. So she trained herself, leaping from building to building, and once she built up enough courage, she went out to stomp crime. The crime part was small things like stopping con artists in the street. But one night, Carrie Kelly overheard a group of mutants talking about meeting up at the dump, and a speech from the leader of the mutants. Carrie thinks about how much she hates the dump, but it's the mutants and it sounds major. And if she goes, maybe she can find him. After a short drive to the dump, Carrie watches as all of the mutants gather around the leader. He shouts, telling them, "People don't take us seriously, but they will when they die by our hands. When they see their women raped, they will know. We have the strength and the will, and now we have guns. So everyone take a gun and storm the police headquarters. Kill and kill and kill. I want the head of Old Man Gordon. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go out and crush that fool, Batman." But as he finishes, an explosion goes off behind him, and Batman rolls up, and the Bat Tank. Without even being given an order, everyone turns and they begin to shoot at this Batmobile. However, all of the grenades and the rockets just bounce off, and they end up doing more harm to the mutants than the vehicle itself. Batman opens up and he shoots back, hitting everyone with rubber bullets. And once the last of them are down, Batman drives up to the leader. The leader shouts for him to come out and face him like a man. And Bruce thinks, there he is, an evil that we've never even dreamed of, right in my sights. Just then Alfred radios in, stating that the weapons have been shut down. And Batman tells him, "This is why I can't have a back door. I might have been tempted to use it." Instead, he jumps out of the tank to take the fight straight to the leader. And it would seem that Batman himself has the upper hand until his age begins to play a factor and his moves grow slower. The leader slams Batman into the ground, and Batman tells himself, "I still have a shot. Ribs intact. There's no internal bleeding." The leader reaches up to pick him back up, and Batman lunges forward first, crushing his face, shattering the leader's nose. But the idiot, he starts laughing. Batman begins to punch at the man, and then Batman stops to catch his breath as the man asks, "Getting tired, old man?" He gets up to attack Batman, beating him senselessly, and the more and more that Batman is hit, he thinks that this wouldn't have happened if Dick Grayson was here. Where is Robin? He was always his little monkey wrench. From the corner of his eye, Batman sees him. Except, it's not the Robin that he expected, it's Carrie. She leaps in on the leader's head, pulling him away from Batman, giving Batman enough time to put a capsule into the leader's face. As Batman lays there, Carrie checks on him, confirming that Batman is still alive. The hatch to the tank opens, and Alfred hits over the comms, telling her, "Help him in, and once she's done, you can run along home." However, Carrie doesn't leave, and instead she goes inside to help patch up Batman. Alfred tells her to stay out of the way of his sensors, but she doesn't listen and continues to work silently. Once she's finished, Batman begins to wake back up, and he asks Carrie where she learned to make a splint. She tells him the Girl Scouts, and Batman asks for her name. She waits for a moment and says that her name is Carrie Kelly, or Robin. Bruce smiles, telling her that his name is Bruce. And over the radio, Alfred tells him, "You're just delirious. Try not to speak anymore. We're going to the hospital." Bruce reaches out for Carrie's hand, telling him, "No, we're going to the cave, and Robin comes with us." Later in the cave, Bruce walks out stripping himself of the costume, and Carrie begins to look around. As she stands there, she finds herself staring at the old Robin costume that Bruce has on display. And a few moments later, she feels a hand on her shoulders. She turns back and she hugs him. As Alfred begins to treat Bruce, the two talk, and Alfred mentions that his judgment might be impaired about the girl. Bruce tells him that Carrie is perfect. She's young, smart, and brave. With her, he might be able to stop this mutant nonsense once and for all. Alfred then asks if he's forgotten what happened to Jason, and Bruce grabs the cowl, stating, "I will never forget what happened to Jason. He was a good soldier. I've honored him, but the war must go on." Bruce then turns to Carrie, telling her that her training begins tomorrow. It'll be weeks before she's ready for direct contact with the enemy. And as those weeks pass, Bruce explains to Carrie that she is in her mutant's costume and that he has the details on tonight's plan. If she alters it in any way, takes any chances, she's fired, and with that, the two head out. Once Carrie gets to the arcade, she walks by a pair of thugs who begin to hit on her. She tells them that the leader will take their faces if they touch her, and one of them says that he figured that she was his main squeeze. She goes on walking, telling them that they are to meet at the Pipe, West River and 40. Attendance is mandatory, but they didn't hear it from her. Back at the police station, the leader sits in his cell, and as Jim walks in, he asks, "What, come to say hello, old man?" And Jim tells him, "No, I came to say goodbye." And as he walks off, turning the lights, the door opens up to that cell. The leader walks out, and Batman tells him, "Good. You know what to do with an open door. Now let's try the vent over there." The leader climbs down into the vent and begins to crawl through the pipes when there's a sudden flash in front of him. Seconds later, both him and Batman tumble out of the pipe into the drainage, and the leader shouts, "I will kill you!" The two wrestle for power, and Batman strikes in very specific ways. First the leader's eyes, then mud into the cuts. As the leader thrashes about, Batman grabs a leg, and he pushes it until it snaps. Something inside of him tells him to stop with the one leg, but he doesn't listen. As he breaks the second, he stands up looking at the rest of the mutants, all of them watching in awe. And the next day, a speaker for the mutants announced that the mutants are now dead. This is the mark of the future. Gotham City now belongs to the Batman. And also this day is the start of Jim Gordon's retirement, along with the first day that Ellen Yindel is the new commissioner of the police. As the wheels of Gotham are turning, so is the new age, one where Batman has stopped the mutant gang threat, and Jim Gordon can go home knowing that all is well for once in his city. As the night comes, Bruce stares out his window thinking about how the wind rises, blowing the dead leaves around, and how the wolf howls at the moon. He then smiles, saying that he knows how the wolf feels now. Though Bruce's hopes of a crimeless city are short-lived, there is someone else watching over Gotham. And that person tells Bruce that he is an idiot. He is ruining everything. It's not just for him, but all of them. And somehow, he always knew that he would. While most of the mutants started to follow behind Batman, some of the others splintered off into their own smaller groups, one of which is led by the Nazi woman Bruno, and she has no problem robbing people in plain view. Just as she holds up a store, another older woman from the back shouts that it's highway robbery. 7-Eleven sells this bottle for $2.50. One of the thugs looks over, pointing his gun at the woman's face, and then she takes the bottle, breaking it over the thug's head. Bruce thinks to himself that they almost got the drop on him, and he quickly throws batarangs, knocking the guns out of the thug's hands. As he leaves, the cashier grabs a gun and points it at one of the men on the ground, and Bruce tells him that if he pulls that trigger, I'll be back for you. Once he begins to follow where Bruno went, down the alley, Carrie Kelly shoots Bruno with a slingshot. Bruno begins to chase after her, and Carrie leads her into an old abandoned house. Bruno walks in with her gun and up the stairs, and the brittle stairway gives way, and she begins to fall into the basement. Batman runs in and he jumps down as Bruno aimlessly fires into the air. Batman tells her, "You missed." But in the back of his head, he thinks about how he's a very, very lucky old man. He begins fighting with Bruno, and there's a rumble in the wall and then a bright blue flash. And Batman says, "No, not him, not now." Bruno gets back up with her gun and fires into the hole where the flash went, and within seconds, her gun is melted and she's wrapped up in old pipes. Batman pulls up his mask, telling the person, "I'm busy, and you just cost me hours. Tomorrow morning, be in my place and stay out of my way until then." Moments later, the blue flash rockets into the sky, leaping a tall building in a single bound. The next morning, Superman meets up with Bruce, telling him that he's not a young man anymore. "It's not healthy for you to burn yourself up like this." Bruce smiles and Superman tells him, "I know. You look better than you have in years. You're just gonna make me come out and say it, huh?" Bruce says, "Nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do." So Superman says, "It's like this. Sooner or later, someone is going to order me to bring you in. Someone with authority. And when that happens," Bruce speaks up before Superman and says, "When that happens, may the best man win."
Superman goes to respond, but he hears the president discussing their current involvement with Soviet forces and how there's been talks of a nuclear war. He takes his glasses, telling him, "We're gonna talk later." And Bruce tells him, "No hurry." Later that night at the Arkham home for the emotionally troubled, Dr. Wolper gets Joker ready to go out on stage after being rehabilitated, just as Harvey Dent once was. Not allowing the same thing to happen twice, Bruce heads out to the studio where the Joker is about to make his appearance, but waiting for him is Commissioner Yindel, waiting to arrest the Batman. Yindel says that she is not of the mindset that the Batman is helping their city, and to make it clear, she will do everything in her power to put Batman behind bars. While Batman fights with the GCPD on the roof below, the Joker makes his entrance into the talk show that he was brought on to talk about his amazing progress. He lights up a cigarette, and as he exhales, he points to the crowd, telling them, "I'm going to kill everyone in this room tonight." Wolper hastily says he is trying to break the tension. My patient here is a victim of Batman psychosis, and as he goes on, Joker grabs the female guest that is next to him and kisses her. He pulls back and her face begins to change, and it starts to smile, and her skin begins to turn white. A small rocket shoots into the building and it begins to spread the Joker gas, and the Joker begins to ride it out, thinking how so many smiles, so many faces, all the same now. The next night, the Joker pays a visit to Kyle Escort Services to see Selina Kyle. And as Selina looks up to see the Joker, she simply says, "Oh, Jesus." And the Joker tells her, "I need your help." He quickly grabs her and he kisses her, and as he lets go, he tells her that she should be grateful that that wasn't that lipstick. "Now your girl Elsie is escorting a congressman tonight. Why don't we call Elsie in for a moment?" Later on that night, Elsie goes to meet with the congressman and she tells him that she's going to do something a little extra for him tonight. The police are all called in because that same congressman is committing suicide by jumping from the window of his hotel room. One of the detectives walks up to Yindel stating that his name is O'Halloran from the 6th Precinct. "What do we have there?" She explains that it isn't suicide. The girl with him is from Kyle Escort Services. She's been drugged. They're about to go pick up Selina Kyle. The detective turns and walks away, telling her, "Thank you." And a second later, another detective walks up telling Yindel that he is O'Halloran. Yindel looks back and shouts to stop the other man, and the detective charges through the crowd and jumps onto a motorcycle. The police shoot, and one of the bullets grazes Batman's shoulder as he takes off the mask, stating, "We're gonna bandage that up on the way." He rushes over to Selina's office to find her tied up in a Wonder Woman costume, and he removes the gag, and she tells him, he's worse than ever. He's using lipstick, mind control. He had Elsie use it on the congressman. Wait, Mary, she's with the governor. As Selina goes on, Carrie Kelly finds cotton candy on the floor, and Batman shouts, "The country fair. There's thousands there." In the back of his mind, he thinks about how many people must die by the Joker's hand before he finally kills him. Bruce then kisses Selina, and him and Carrie rush back to the fair. However, as they step out, they see Yindel and the rest of the police making their way in. Batman throws a small explosive to shock the police, and he jumps out, grabbing onto a glider that is waiting for him. As he flies off, Batman radios to Yindel, telling her that the governor's life is in danger, and he doesn't have the time to save him. "It's up to you." Later, as Batman and Carrie get to the fair, they find the empty cotton candy stand and the bodies scattered across the ground, lifeless. Batman feels Carrie's hand tighten on this. This girl's only 13 years old, and she has now just lost her innocence. Tonight is the night that it ends for the Joker. He spots the Joker having people get onto roller coasters, and as they get closer, one of the roller coasters rockets up, flying towards the other two. As the Joker takes out his gun, the rocket explodes. Batman shields Carrie, and the two of them jump down. The Joker sets more of his gas off, and through the thick of it, he grabs a hostage. Without saying a word, Batman pulls out his batarangs, and he throws them, hitting the Joker's shoulder and another in his eye. With the hostage, the Joker starts to run into the House of the Mirrors with one less eye, and the Batman crashes through, punching into him. The Joker fires shots, only hitting the mirrors of Batman's reflection. And back on the roller coaster, Carrie fights one of the henchmen, Bobby, as she spots one of the doll bombs, and she hits it with her slingshot. The doll flies off the roller coaster, blowing up harmlessly away from everyone, but the Joker continues running through the crowd, firing his gun. Bobby starts to climb the carts back towards her, and as he grabs a hold of her, he begins to choke Carrie. But before she can pass out, the roller coaster passing by from overhead cracks Bobby in the head. Down in the tunnel of love, Batman chases after the Joker, grabbing onto his head. His grip tightens, and then there's a sudden crack, and Batman lets go. The Joker's body slumps down, and he says, "I'm disappointed. You've only paralyzed me. You couldn't even finish the job. I'm gonna see you in hell." And he struggles to turn his head around. With one hard jerk, the Joker completely twists his head around to finish the motion, and he laughs as he kills himself. It doesn't take long for the police to arrive, and as they start to head into the Tunnel of Love, they find the Joker's body. As they get close to it, it bursts into flames, and Batman throws 3 capsules that explode. He radios to Carrie, who's trying to get over watching Bobby die in front of her, and she needs to call in the helicopter. As she gets ready to, she tells them that they've got some trouble. Media attention. While Carrie deals with that in the police, Yindel closes in on Batman, but before she can finish telling him to freeze, Batman punches her, taking her gun and plants an explosives on the wall. The helicopter swings by and it fires down at the officers, allowing Carrie to jump onto the wheel and escape. But back in the tunnel, Batman fires 1 shot at the plastique and it starts to bring the whole ride down. He's thrown from the building out into the crowd, and Carrie tells the helicopter to blow up the car. A missile shoots down at one of the police cars, and in the confusion, she throws a rope down, grabbing Batman as they fly away. Later in the Batcave, Carrie nervously watches, and Alfred tells her, suture. She hands it over, telling him that he's going to be alright, right? And Alfred says that he'll live. In Bruce's absence, the sons of Batman have taken to the streets, cleaning up the crime in their own aggressive manner. But while that goes on, the news reports that the president has made a statement on the current situation regarding the war with the Soviets. The good news is that the Soviet soldiers have withdrawn from the island of Corto Maltese. But the bad news is, the Soviets are bad losers, and they fired a nuclear missile. Superman flies in to intercept it, and he pulls it away to detonate it safely in the desert. However, there's more to it. The missile explodes, and the electromagnetic pulse from it shakes the states so hard that it results in a loss of power everywhere. Batman gets up out of bed, seeing the emergency generator has kicked in, which means Russia has taken the lead in the arms race. He puts his cowl back on, thinking that he keeps track of these things, Clark. One of us has to. But the blackout isn't the only problem. With the electromagnetic pulse, other things have lost power, like airplanes, and a plane crashes into one of Gotham's buildings, with the burning debris falling right into the heart of the city. Over at the dump, the leader of the Sons of the Bat call out that it is hopeless, and that this is their chance to raise Gotham, to purge Gotham. However, a commanding voice tells them no, and Batman rides up on a black stallion. As the fire spreads throughout the city, Bruce tells everyone that they won't be using guns. Our weapons are quiet and precise. I'll teach you. And tonight, we're gonna rely on our fists and our brains. Tonight, we are the law. Tonight, I am the law. Now let's ride. While Batman rides to take control of the streets, Superman pulls himself out of the ground, weakened from the soot that is blocking the sky. He has no sunlight to repower him up. The missile was supposed to detonate harmlessly, but there are other things that followed, and as he tries to fly upwards, he's struck by lightning. He falls back to the ground in an area that still has light, and he tells Mother Earth, I may not be of this world, but we share the same power. A gentle wind blows, moving the soot to allow a small patch of sunlight, and Superman begins to get up, regaining his lost strength, stating, I will honor you, Mother Earth. A week passes, and Gotham sees the darkness in the sky even at high noon. But while Batman's forces patrol the streets, it has risen up questions of how good something like this truly is. Sure, the Sons of the Bat are ruthless, but they're also effective at keeping crime at bay. One night, Batman watches over his city as he listens to the ramblings of Oliver Queen, missing an arm from previous battles, and how it's been 5 years since he blew out of prison. Batman asks what he wants, and Oliver tells him, I always knew that it'd come down to just you and the big blue Boy Scout. All I want is when it happens, you give me a small piece of him. As Batman goes outside, he sees Carrie returning from her rounds, and a beam shoots down from the sky. Written into the ground, Batman reads the words, where? And knowing exactly what comes next, he looks up at the sky and he tells Superman, Crime Alley. Batman and Carrie head back inside and they begin to suit up, and Batman takes a pill and he begins to think to himself in 1 hour. At midnight, a grand death awaits. As Batman reaches into a container with a glowing green material, he says that Superman won't be expecting this. It'll be his best trick. Once everything is in position, Carrie says that maybe it's time that he told her the plan, or what, is he going to die tonight? And Batman looks at her and tells her, I figure that I will. As the battle between Superman and Batman begins, Alfred sits in the Batcave making the final preparations to the bomb. Once the timer is set, Bruce looks at his watch and he says that now it's Robin's turn. Superman looks over at a hole in the wall and a can of shells fired into him. And suddenly Carrie Kelly feels herself being picked up, and Superman rips open the tank, asking her, isn't it a school night? But across the way, Batman stands at a lamppost, the only known source of power throughout the city, in his battle armor built to take out Superman. There are no words between the two of them as they begin to punch into each other back and forth, and Batman thinks to himself that Superman has sold them out. He gave them the power that should have been theirs. Superman punches into Batman, knocking him into the lamppost, waiting for him to say something. And up on the building, Oliver Queen shouts as the police are going after him. But he's shot with a bullet and tumbles to the ground. He catches himself on the ladder using his legs. He then takes aim and bites the bowstring to pull it back. As soon as he lets go, Superman spins back, catching the arrow. But before he can notice what the arrow is, the kryptonite explosion goes off. The kryptonite weakens Superman, and as Batman begins to beat into him, Superman says, I could hear it. Your heart.
Batman thinks, yeah, you're starting to get the idea. This is the end for both of us. Batman has become a political liability and Superman has become a joke. Batman begins to stomp on Superman's head, telling him, I want you to remember, in all of the years to come, in your most private moments, remember the hand around your throat. Remember the man who beat you. And with one final heartbeat, Batman falls to the ground. Over at Wayne Manor, Alfred looks up to watch everything that they have built be blown to pieces. He feels a jolt travel up his spine, thinking how utterly proper it is for things to end this way, and he collapses. The news reports that the cloud is almost gone, and how the spectacular career of Batman has come to a tragic conclusion. The crime fighter has suffered a heart attack while battling the government forces, and he's been identified as 55-year-old Bruce Wayne. While some come to pay their respects to Bruce at his grave, some are upset that Superman has the gall to show himself there. The news reports state that the Wayne fortune has also mysteriously vanished, and with not so much as a trace as to where it could have gone. But as the crowds leave the cemetery, Clark Kent, Superman, is the last to leave. As he's walking, he hears something. He hears a heartbeat. He looks back to a woman standing there, and as the heartbeat begins to beat faster, he smiles and he turns away. Later that night, Bruce tells himself that Clark will leave him alone now. In return, he'll stay quiet, only working from the shadows while he accomplishes his goals. With Carrie and a handful of the sons of the Batman, he can build an army. This will be a good life, or at least one good enough. It's been 3 years since Bruce Wayne died, which caused everyone to think that Batman had finally left the city. With some of the world's terrorist attacks falling right in the middle of Gotham, Bruce had worked to restore order with his ragtag band of Bat Boys led by Carrie. But even with everything on the road to recovery, political strife still haunts the once great city. Meanwhile, at another location, a man finds himself battling against the giant creatures of the sea who wish to feed upon himself. However, even though this man would be their prey, he is a savage. His humanity is all but forgotten, a warrior born. After cutting part of a monster off, the man eats the meat, not even bothering to cook it. How long has he been in this hell? Days, weeks, years, there's no way to tell. There's no daytime or sunlight. But from the sky, like the glare of some wrathful god, a light appears. Maybe he has finally been driven mad. Who could know? Nevertheless, he has to know what it is. He jumps back into the chilly waters, frantically swimming towards the pillar of light, when suddenly he is pulled under. The monster from before returns, its probes trying to keep the man from escaping, and finally, it has himself. His ribs flex and his legs go numb, and then the icy water feels warm. He looks back and the light shines on him, and with that, a small object floats down. He continues to grow, standing tall from the abyss when he hears a voice. Welcome back, Professor Palmer. Ray Palmer looks at the giant woman asking where he is, and she tells him that he is in a laboratory. The enemy used his own technology to imprison him. He examines his surroundings, and after a brief pause, he shouts that the bastards dropped him in a damn petri dish. He leaps up onto the woman's shoulder asking who might she be, and she responds that her name is Caroline Keene Kelly, sir. Bruce sent me. He scratches his beard, and Ray says, it's just like bats, sending in a kid. And Carrie tells him that she is hardly a child. She is 16 years old. Suddenly, the sirens and the alarms blast through the facility, and Carrie snatches up Ray to make their escape. Skates shoot out of her shoes, and she ducks and weaves through the oncoming gunfire from the guard station there. As Carrie gets closer to the exit, she realizes that she's going to have to jump out of the building, and she brings Ray close to her mouth. He yells, asking, what are you doing? And then he says, oh no. And right after that, Carrie pops him into her mouth and jumps out the window. She falls, grabbing onto the edge of her bat plane, Tweety, and quickly throws herself into the pilot's seat. After the sudden shift makes her swallow, she says that she's going to throw up. The news reports that there's been an assault on Palmer Laboratories, and the president says that the materials stolen could be used for biological warfare. However, up in the skies, the red eyes of Superman watch, thinking to himself that he knows that it was Bruce who did this. Nobody else could be so good at being so crazy, you damn fool. This wasn't the deal at all. You were supposed to lay low. You were supposed to stay quiet, but you had to let her wear tights. I've been working on Palmer's release for months, and we were close to some terms. Now you've gone and made a crime of it. You're all gonna pay for this. That arrogance will bring calamity, atrocity, and genocide. Later, in the Batcave, Ray puts on his costume and he asks Bruce if he is kidding. He finally got a haircut, shave, and hot shower, and after the first decent sleep in 2 years, he can bet that he's ready for action. Bruce tells him, good, because I got quite a tale to tell. We have a world of work to do. Ray fits his gloves asking, just like old times? And Bruce says, no, not out like old times. It's a whole new game. But while everyone gets ready to set out on the night's mission, the news outlets all begin to talk about a big story that is currently developing. Right now, their planet faces a crisis with an asteroid heading straight towards it. And that's not what everyone's concerned about. During a broadcast of the president addressing the issue, there's a moment where he glitched. This has led people to question whether or not they do in fact have an actual president or if he's just a computer program. Seconds after the president's announcement airs, Lex Luthor punches down a man, telling him, "If that happens again, I'm gonna break your scrawny neck myself." The man coughs up blood, telling him that it won't happen again. The team will find the glitch. However, listening to that conversation is a man with no face. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Bruce gets ready for his attack, telling himself, "This is it, Superman. No more skirmishes, no more compromises, no more deals, no more secrecy, no more silence. There's no more pretending that we don't exist. No more lies. Damn the consequences. The war begins now." Everyone gets ready, and Bruce and the team move out to their next attack on another facility. The assault goes as planned, and the team make their way to the facility's core to find their target. We're another man who's being held prisoner for wearing tights. The United States Congress has passed the Freedom from Information Act, making everything worth knowing declared a national security secret, with one man running things from behind the scenes. Carrie tells the man they located that they are here to rescue him. Bruce sent her. The man says, "Damn, Bruce, they're gonna kill Iris for this." And Carrie holds out the flash ring, telling him, "Iris is safe with us. She asked that this ring be given back to you." Barry Allen puts on his ring, and as he holds it up, the costume of the Flash springs out from the ring's compartment. Before Carrie can even see, the Flash has changed, and he asks, "What, you changed my outfit now?" Carrie tells him, "Yeah, well, the old design was really old." And not quite 1 second later, in a flash of light, Carrie looks around at the desert, asking, "So we're on Mars now or something, right?" Bruce says, "Nah, we're in Utah. I've always loved Utah." And Carrie yells, "That is so cool!" Once the mission is done, Bruce calls out that Superman won't be able to ignore this one. His masters control almost every aspect of human life, but they can't control information, and it's the information age. There's no way to silence me or stop me. Up in space, Superman handles the asteroid heading towards Earth, and he begins to destroy it in a fit of rage. He shouts at Bruce, "The world is already fragile. You're just the man to bring it down, aren't you? Everything has to be utterly perfect in your eyes, and because of that, you're gonna be the death of all of us. We live in a world where we have to consider the greater good of things and come to terms with the way things are." As the last bit of asteroid is broken apart, Superman glares, telling him, "This time, I may have to kill you." Before heading back to here, Superman calls to Diana, telling her that he needs to see her. She tells him, of course, "Anytime, darling, anywhere." But before Bruce continues his crusade to free the United States from its oppression, another team is being assembled. Later in outer space on an old satellite, Wonder Woman Diana Prince meets with Shazam and Superman to plan out how they're going to handle this situation. She gives Shazam a kiss in the cheek, asking how he's been. He says, "Better than Superman over there. He's been in a mood and doesn't seem to want to talk." Diana tells Superman to speak to her. She didn't come all this way to watch him mope, and he finally speaks up, stating that they can't go on like this. Hiding on the dark side of the moon like cowards while they let monsters rule the world, what have we become? A voice tells him that he is exactly what he's always dreamed that he would be. Obedient servants, each of them, to the will of their betters. But now they have screwed up. The screen lights up with Lex's face, and he tells them all, "You three thought that you could meet in secret, but my agents are everywhere. Our people are watching Diana's lovely little island. They're watching sweet little Mary. And then there's you, Clark." Lex steps back from the camera, and Brainiac smiles, holding up a small, battled city. The city of Kandor. Brainiac says, "You know, I was never thanked for rescuing this proud city from the doomed little planet of Krypton." And Superman tells him, "Please, don't do this, I beg of you." He watches as one of the Krypton families is killed, and Brainiac says, "There goes another Kryptonian bloodline lost for all of time." Superman falls to the ground, and Lex tells him, "You are going to find out what happened to Ray Palmer and Barry Allen. And whoever's behind all of these disturbances, deliver them to me." With rage glowing in Superman's eyes, he leaves the satellite, telling himself, "It's time for me and Bruce to have a little talk." It takes only a few moments as he barrels straight back down to the earth, crashing through the mountainside into Bruce's new bat cave. Bruce calls him out, telling him, "I had no doubt that you would come when those dirtbags who control you pulled at your heartstrings, but I've had years to prepare." Superman tells him, "It doesn't have to be like this," and Bruce tells him, "Sure it does. I've got a world to set free as Superman is in my way." Also, meet Fido. The giant mechanical dinosaur roars as Superman tells him, "You've got to be kidding me." He rockets through the dinosaur, and then a mechanical Bizarro jumps out, punching into Superman. Superman knocks his head off, telling him, "This is a new low even for you, Bruce. Bruce. As Superman lands, the Flash runs by sticking several discs to Superman, and before he can even ask what they are, they all begin to explode. He shields himself with his cape, and Bruce says, "Pardon me while I drop 90 tons of planet Earth on you." The ceiling begins to rumble, and after another explosion, it begins to cave in on Superman. Through the rocks, Oliver Queen takes aim with his bow, and he fires an arrow. Superman hits the arrow with his heat vision, and as the arrow detonates, it releases a blast of kryptonite napalm. He begins to weaken, so Ray Palmer shrinks down, jumping into Superman's ear, telling him, "It's nothing personal, even though I am going to enjoy every second of this." After a few moments, Superman collapses as Ray Palmer jumps back out, and Bruce says, "That's enough. He's ready." Superman weakly says, "I just came here to talk." But wearing a kryptonite gauntlet, Bruce punches Superman over and over. And after a few hits go by, Bruce stands back up, telling Superman, "I'm done talking. Now get the hell out of my cave." In light of all of the media covering the conspiracy theories revolving around the president being real or not, Batman and his agents have been working in the shadows, following up on their next lead. The lead brings them to Lex Luthor's tower, where he and his men have stationed, where they're putting up a facade that the president is in fact real. As the Batmobile crashes through the upper levels of the building, Batman and Carrie Kelly jump out and they begin their assault, but in a rather more brutal fashion than Batman is used to. Batarangs stab into men, capes slice through their stomachs, and hands are cut free, while Batman moves into beating Lex as an explosion off in the distance, and Batman leans down asking Lex, "Did you just hear that? That was your entire database, the one that you used to blackmail, terrorize, bribe, and murder everyone who opposes you. So, your little hostile takeover of the planet is gone, but before you get your hopes up, your phone is about to ring." A second later, Lex's phone does ring, and Batman tells him, "That's gonna be the call that tells you that your backups in Moscow, Tokyo, and London, all of them have been wiped out as well." Before Batman gets back up, he tells him, "One last thing, I'll see you in hell," and he carves a Z into Lex's face. As the Batmobile flies back out of the building, Batman kicks his feet up, telling Carrie that the best part about their job is striking terror into villains. But also at this time, Ralph Digby, the elongated man, begins to shoot his commercial when the Flash appears out of nowhere. Ralph tells him, "Whoa, it's been ages. How's it hanging?" But before Ralph can even get an answer, the Flash grabs him and disappears. Later, in the North Pole, Diana walks over the ruins of what was once the mighty Fortress of Solitude, the base that belonged to Superman. She has come here to find someone special, her love, Superman. As she walks, the weak voice of Superman asks, "How's Laura?" And Diana tells him, infuriating, willful, now just 17. She flies now. She would love to meet her father. Superman says, "That can never be. They're always watching, and once they know that she exists, she will just become their slave. Swear that it will never happen, Diana." Diana tells him no. She will not live a coward's life. Her time will come and she will face the enemy in her own way. But as Superman sulks, he says, "I've lost. I'm as good as dead." Diana punches him, shouting, "I could kill you myself. Where is the man that stole my Amazonian heart? The hero that threw me to the ground and took me as his rightful prize. Where is that Superman?" As Diana kisses Superman, he pulls her back, telling her, "I'm right here." And the two fly into the air. After some time, they come crashing down to the planet, causing massive waves and volcanic eruptions. And Diana says that the world has just moved from that. With that, Mr. Kent, you could populate an entire planet. And it would seem that she is pregnant once again. But while Superman and Diana rekindle their once lost love, the new outlets report on a new threat that looms over the Earth. An unidentified object has been spotted shooting across the Atlantic, making its way towards North America. While Batman prepares for his next objective, Superman heads up into the skies to stop the UFO. He asks the alien ship what their business on Earth is, and without a response, the ship fires a blast, shooting Superman back down towards the Earth. However, Superman's newfound vigor allows him to jump back to his feet in no time, and he flies back up towards the ship. Meanwhile, over in Arkham Asylum, Batman and his crew break in to free their potential new ally. Ralph wraps himself up in an object, stating that he's all over it, and Batman tells him to get ready, he'll be in a mood. Once the machine releases the object, strings of human limbs begin to tangle up with Ralph's body as Plastic Man, Patrick O'Brien, screams. Batman knows that Ralph doesn't stand a chance against Plastic Man. He could easily kill them all. So Batman does what he does best, and he punches Plastic Man in the face. Seconds later, he laughs as he turns into a car, and he falls on Ralph, stating, "Thanks, Bats. You always know how to slap a little sense into me. Now, I'm ready and raring to go. Say, what year is it?" Batman tells him it's the year that they fix things, and Plastic Man shouts, "I'm totally with you. Also, I'm hoping this is actually real, unlike those dreams I was having in the egg," which is fine, but it would be cooler if this was real. Plastic Man turns and he looks at Ralph and he says, "Wait, this has gotta be real. I would never dream of anyone as boring as Elongated Man." While everyone is preoccupied with their own things, Joke, the person once thought to be dead, begins to laugh. He asks Guardian how does it feel having all those knives in his back? How is he supposed to help Superman anyway? What would his wife say about that? And Guardian struggles to get up, stating, "You can't be the Joker. You've been dead." And the Joker tells him, "Maybe I'm not." But then again, a gun pointed at the Guardian's head goes off, and as the body falls over, he asks, "Whoever could I be then?" Back with Superman, he continues to try and fight back the alien ship while it rips through the cities. A hand reaches down, picking Superman up, and as he gets closer, Superman sees exactly who is in the ship. Brainiac. Brainiac tells him, "Yes, it is I, and right now I'm going to cash you in." Superman, the greatest superhero of all time, will be defeated, disgraced, and destroyed as the world watches. And for the sake of your other world, you're going to let it happen. Turn tail and run, and Kandor will live another day. However, if you fight back, the last of the Kryptonians will die screaming at the name of Kal-El. Superman stands tall and he says, "I will not flee. Now, I will fight. Do your worst." The world begins to watch as Superman, the once greatest hero, is beaten repeatedly into the ground by what people assume is a giant alien. Among those watching are Batman and the Flash shouts that they need to get out there. They need to stop this. People are gonna die. Batman tells him, "You're just as thick as Superman. That robot is a trick to flush us out. Now you need to follow the strategy." While the two argue over whether or not they should be going, Carrie stops them both, stating that she found something, a military strike code named Thanagar. The two men stop bickering, and before Batman could finish telling the Flash that he should get there, the Flash is already reporting in that he's there, and smokes everywhere. Maybe they should all get out of here. The whole force is on fire, and there's dinosaurs. Batman gets ready and tells Carrie to fire up the Batmobile. Robin. And Carrie tells him, "Actually, I'm going by Catgirl now. You should have learned that." Elsewhere in the dingy bar, Martian Manhunter takes his glass and he sits at a table with Vic Sage, asking, "When did you take up drinking? Never thought I'd see the day." Vic tells him he still hasn't. He just wishes to sit here. So he paid for a rental of this chair and table. Custom dictated that he be given a glass of this poison. He, however, is not under any obligation to consume it. Manhunter says that he kind of figured that, but he shouldn't have gone looking him up. It's nothing but wasted time. He knows why he's here. He's of no use. Vic tells him that his powers rival that of the traitor Superman. All he needs is some concentration. And Manhunter laughs, telling him, "Forget about it. My powers are gone since my third kidney crapped out. So if something can cut me, it cuts me and it bleeds and it hurts like hell. No more walking through walls, flying around, making people see stuff that isn't there, or even looking human. But fine, we have ourselves an appointment out by the river and I'll keep a lookout, but you gotta stay close." Back with Superman, he lays face down on the ground while everyone around asks what's going on. And up in the sky, a young girl watches and tells Diana that he needs her. Diana says not yet. First, it is time to show what Mama can do with a little help from Zeus. As she grabs a bolt of lightning, she flies down on Pegasus, ready to save her old love. But over with Oliver Queen, he reports back to Batman, stating that Carrie's intel was good. Manhunter is with Vic Sage right now. But someone attacked the both of them and they began firing 3 shots that were sure to kill. Instead of falling over, the monster just got up laughing, so he had to step in. The wannabe Joker took all of the arrows in the back, and with no other choice, they lit him up. Manhunter was already gone, no helping him, but the Joker boy, he just kept laughing even while burned. Him and Sage got clear of the scene, but as for the other two, they're gone. At this time, all of the heroes are struggling. Shazam has fallen, Brainiac attacks. This is the end for all of them, and Superman accepts it. However, there is another person who is watching, telling her father that he is wrong for thinking that. Laura descends from space, proudly showing her father's crest, rocketing through Brainiac's robot. Her powers are strengthened not only by her father's Kryptonian powers, but her Amazonian mother, and they easily tear through anything that Brainiac can throw at her. While Laura begins her work, Batman and his men put out the fires in Thanagar, recruiting the children of Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Brainiac tells Laura that he's seen that crest before and it's never been a problem in the past. And Laura says yes, she does wear it, but he should know that she is also an Amazon, and she fires her heat vision right into Brainiac. As the fire covers the area, Laura braces herself and then opens her eyes to see Superman asking, "It's hard to control, isn't it? The heat vision of all of the powers takes the longest to master. Heck, when I was a baby, I almost burned down my parents' home." Laura doesn't respond as Superman asks, "What sort of world have I given you?" Back in Gotham City, the Super Chicks, a media outlet holding a concert to speak out about what's going on with the government, has Lex come in to shut it down. Just as the guards pull out their guns, the Flash runs by, stripping everyone, causing the guards to flee. While the others make their way in, Batman thinks to himself that he would have never thought of going with Carrie's plan, but he then pulls his mask down, revealing himself to the crowds, telling them that it is time to put on their tights. It is time for them to turn a fashion trend into a revolution and give them hell! With Batman's announcement, the cities have rallied behind him with costumes ready to fight and take down the government. But while Bruce did that, Shazam, Diana, and Laura continued to fight back Brainiac's robot that he unleashed on Metropolis. Days pass, and Metropolis, once known as the City of Dreams, sits in ruins with a blanket of ash covering it. Diana looks down and tells Shazam that she will go find Superman for him to allow Billy to turn back into a child for a little while. Shazam coughs, lifting up some of the debris, stating, "I appreciate the thought, but we don't have time to waste. Besides, it was never me turning into Billy Batson. It was more like me and Billy switched places. What people didn't know is that Billy Batson died 8 years ago. So if I were to call out that name, then it would be a one-way trip." Diana asks, "What do you mean by one-way trip? Where would you go?" And Shazam asks, "Where does a dream go when you wake up and you can't remember it? It goes nowhere, and that is where I will go. Without Billy Batson to hold my place on this world. Give everyone my best. It's been nice existing." Diana tells him, "Say it, and let it out with a lion's roar." And with that, Shazam calls out the magical word, Shazam! And after a strike of lightning, Shazam is no more. Weeks now pass, and they scan Metropolis in hopes of finding someone. And as hard as she looks, she knows that there is no one left to rescue. Countless are dead. Metropolis is over, and there are only a few corpses. Through the destruction, Laura sees her father still trying to find something, searching for one last thing to bring him hope. Superman reaches down, pulling out a necklace, and inside its locket is a picture of him and Lois. He looks at it, telling Lois that this is their final goodbye. But while Clark is lost in thought, Laura asks, "Who is Kandor?" That monster that Brainiac just telepathed her, telling her to surrender herself or Kandor dies. So who is Kandor? Superman pauses for a moment, and then he tells Laura to come with him. There are many things that they must talk about. Once the two clear the fog of ash, without a rhyme or reason, Laura asks, "How about sex?" Superman pauses, "Excuse me?" And Laura tells him there are so many things that she'd like to ask him, and her mother keeps telling her that he is the one who can answer them. Since they don't have much time, she figured that she would start asking things as quickly as she can. Superman sighs, and he tells her, "Never with Terrence. They are fragile." Laura starts repeating, "Fragile, puny, stupid. These humans don't know their place." And Superman tells her, "You don't realize the poison in those words. Your mother and me don't command this world, we share it. And at best, we serve it." Laura asks, "Why though? The humans have just made a mess of things. Look at how they're killing their own planet and each other." A voice that asks Superman if he remembers when he said that he was done talking, because he wasn't. Bruce appears behind Superman, telling him, "I had Palmer leave a little something behind when he jumped in your ear. But right now, that is why you can see and hear me." Superman shouts for him to get away, and then he asks, "What is it? What will it take for me to break free of your control? What else do I have left to lose? Honor, dignity, Metropolis, Lois?" And then Bruce stops and thinks, and tells him, "Kandor. It's Kandor, isn't it?" And Superman turns back, telling him, "They stole it when they destroyed my fortress. They're holding the city of Kandor hostage." And Bruce tells him, "Well, looks like we're just gonna have to steal the city back, but I'm gonna lay down some ground rules. Just so that we're on the same page, there are no more debates. We won't be discussing anything. Superman now works for Batman." And then Bruce's finger points to Laura, telling her, "Same goes for her." And Laura shouts, "How dare you!" But before she can strike, Superman stops her, telling her, "Bruce is our only hope. That bastard is our only hope." However, just as Bruce begins to give the orders, he shouts out in pain, telling the two not to worry. It's just a power surge, a wait for his orders. As the hologram fades, Laura listens to Bruce's heartbeat and tells Superman that he's dying. Superman tells her, "Not Bruce. You don't know him like I do. Bruce wouldn't just die like that." We're still on the last run. Back over in Gotham City, Carrie follows a lead on a young girl who seems to know a lot about everything. As she sits in the window, the young girl tells her that it's okay, Carrie, please come in. She asks how, and the girl says that she knows a lot of things. She knows that she was once Robin when she was younger. Carrie tells her that's right. She's been spying the chat rooms, and so far every prediction that she's made is correct. The girl sulks, telling her, "You didn't know about Metropolis." And Carrie says that there is nothing that she could have done about it. Superman was caught off guard. "But what's with the costume? What would you like to be called?" And the girl tells her Saturn Girl, though that's not her real name. The real Saturn Girl's letting her borrow it since she isn't born yet. Carrie asks, "How about it then? Would Saturn Girl like to join their cause?" And Saturn Girl shouts, "Will she?" But then she stops. More predictions appear in her mind, ones of Carrie being killed by the Joker. And Carrie asks, what is she seeing? Saturn Girl hesitates and says that bad things will happen. He hates her more than anyone. He makes himself look like Joker, but that's not who he is. Carrie tells her that that's impossible. He's dead. And Saturn Girl tells her, no, he's not. He can't die. And as Carrie leaves, she thinks back on 2 weeks ago when she ran into the Joker in the catacombs. It was after they left the concert and they got Oliver. Oliver. Oliver said that he killed him once, but here he is. So she shot the Joker with all of Oliver's different arrows, acid, C4, tore him apart, piece by piece, even an arrow straight through the head. So he was dead. He has to be dead, right? Over in Siberia at Brainiac's base, Laura makes her way in, announcing to Brainiac that if he is to spare Kandor, she will submit her body and soul to him. Brainiac tells her that that is good. Much more willing than your father. Just let me get things ready to put nanobots into you. She tells him that that is fine, but allow her to see it, allow her to touch the city. As Brainiac's wires connect to Laura, she holds the bottled city, kissing it, shedding a single tear. And in that tear is Ray Palmer. Over with Lex, Lex begins to beat down on Bruce, shouting that he is nothing more than an arrogant rabble-rouser. Bruce thinks to himself that he was caught trying a clumsy break-in. Didn't put up much fight though. He's utterly helpless at Lex's mercy, really. Lex yells that it's over for them. They have nukes orbiting the world. Thermobaric cluster bombs that will split into thousands of drones that will kill everyone. How are we supposed to kill him? How are you supposed to kill me? Bruce tells him, no, that's not my job. I'm just here to make sure that you get killed. Lex continues punching into Bruce, telling him, here it comes. And Bruce shouts, you're right about that. Here it comes. Before Lex could swing again, a green light begins to shine, and Lex tells him, no. And Bruce starts laughing, thinking about how he loves the part of his job where he strikes fear into people. The green light begins to cover the globe, and just as everyone asks what it could be, a fist clenches down on the earth. A giant projection of Hal Jordan begins to release his grip, and then he says that he would love to stick around, but he's due back home. Lex screams, you planned this, didn't you? You knew that he was coming and you just sat there. Why? Bruce, now free, drinking tea, says, I just needed to distract you while I had other operations in progress, but really, I just had to be here to see the look on your face. Also, heads up, that window's about to explode and you're about to die. Seconds later, the window breaks in and the wings flap as Hawkman and Hawkwoman's son flies in wielding a mace. The heavy metal ball bashes into Lex's skull, and Bruce shouts, way to go, kid. And Barry says, Jesus. Bruce turns back, telling him, get used to it, the youngsters play rough. Back with Laura, she calls out to Brainiac that he can feel it. She warmed her body to the point that his nanobots died. Her trap was sprung. Brainiac laughs, it doesn't matter. It would take 10 of you to even stop me. And Laura asks, oh, wherever will I find 10 of me? Seconds later, Ray's fist breaks through Kandor's glass prison, and soon all of the imprisoned Kryptonians begin to fly out. However, back with Bruce, he begins to return back to the Batcave when he gets a distress call from Carrie. She coughs up blood, stating that they've been hit. It's too late for her to escape, and she loves him. But before the transmission cuts off, there is laughter. Insane laughter. Bruce can feel his heart weakening as he pushes himself even harder to go back home. As for Carrie, the more that she cuts into the Joker, the more that he heals. He doesn't die. He can't die, but who is he? Joker leans down, kissing Carrie, stating how Batman loves her so much. It's time for her to be skinned alive. But just then, Bruce tells him, like hell you will. You're gonna die right here and now. Alfred, command, destruct, code, zap, biff, pow. The computer says, very good. And the destruction sequence is engaged. Joker then calls out, command, override, abort sequence, code, kit, numar, Craig. The computer responds back that the code is invalid, and Bruce says, so it is you, Dick Grayson. Dick scoffs, you've always been so smart. And Bruce shouts, yeah, that's why I fired your sorry butt for incompetence. Couldn't cut the mustard, Bucky. Dick then says, you don't know what I've become. I underwent radical gene therapy. I can't die. And Bruce tells him, sure you can. Bruce shouts to the computer to drop him, and then from under Dick's feet, the floor gives way and he begins to fall below. Ralph Digby reaches in to grab Carrie and pull her out, and Dick shouts, this isn't over, as he grabs onto one of the rock ledges. He begins to pull himself back up, and just as Dick gets up, Bruce kicks him back down, and then he swings a hatchet, cutting off his head. Dick's body catches the head, and Dick shouts, damn you, I loved you! And Bruce asks, so what, you were useless, couldn't cut the mustard. Dick reattaches his head, telling him, I would have done anything for you. And Bruce says, you're breaking my heart. How about we die together? He then runs, tackling Dick off the ledge to fall into the lava pit below, but then something shoots out. Clark flies out of the pit, holding onto Bruce, asking, where to? A few moments later, the new Batcave begins to explode, and getting away from it is Bruce and Carrie in the last Batmobile. Carrie weakly tells him, you're losing all of your stuff. And Bruce says, it's all junk anyway. A robot dinosaur, for goodness sake. Carrie tells him, yeah, that giant penny was pretty awesome though, but it's your history. Bruce leans down, telling her, they're all just souvenirs. Nothing but souvenirs. I was sentimental back when I was old. It's been 3 years since the downfall of Lex and Brainiac. 3 years that the world has known peace. 3 years since anyone has seen the Bat. Rumors have been going around that he's still around, just not actually doing anything. And one night, someone wanted to put that to the test, intentionally messing with the GCPD. The man ran while the cops pointed their guns, and then out of nowhere, there's a crash. Batman had returned, and he was fighting against the GCPD. All of the news outlets had their own theories about him, but one question that they all had is, why has he come back? The cities talked, and there was another city that had been fighting its own battles against mystical beasts who had threatened their daily lives. Today it was a raging minotaur, and it rampaged through a small tribe when a woman watched and stalked the beast. Before the minotaur could cause any more damage, Wonder Woman Diana Prince sprang from her hideaway and fought the creature. Just as the beast fell, a faint cry could be heard coming from behind her. She took her newborn son Jonathan and fed him, telling him not to fear. The world is safe once again. Now let them return home. But she also had another child, one named Laura, the half Kryptonian, half Amazon, who still had questions for her father. Since the great battle 3 years ago, Superman retired to his fortress, and he has not been seen since. Laura looks at her father, who allowed himself to be trapped within a shell of ice, asking if there's anything that she can do. The frozen body once again does not respond, but something else does. Little shrieks can be heard, and when Laura looks back, she sees the bottle that houses the broken city of Kandor. On the glass, she can see them spelling out the words, "Help us." Back in Gotham, Commissioner Yindel sits on the GCPD roof, drinking, wondering, why has the Batman come back? Then an officer comes out telling her that they have him right where they want him, and Yindel smiles, stating he shouldn't have come back. Down in the streets, the GCPD chase after Batman, but it doesn't take long for the entire GCPD force to surround him, and the only place that he has to go is up. Batman fires his grappling hook up to escape, but then one of the officers shines a light, and Batman jumps back down. He takes the flashlight, breaking it over the officer's head, and in that brief moment of hesitation, the officers make their move. They all pull out their nightsticks and they begin to hit Batman until finally he stops moving. One of the officers laughs, asking if he's had enough yet, and pulls out his cuffs. But just before they can put them on Batman, Batman answers his question with a straight punch to the face. He gets up swinging, knocking over the officers all around him until the voice calls out to him, Yindel telling him to freeze. But still having enough fight left in him, Batman turns back to hit her. His hits are weak, slow, and tired. And Yindel takes out her cuffs, slapping them on Batman, asking, where is he? Where is Bruce Wayne? And Yindel pulls back the cowl, with Carrie Kelly asking her, where's Bruce Wayne? Bruce Wayne is dead. Once the other officers get back up, they take Carrie to the police car, and all Carrie can do is shout, Bruce Wayne is dead! Bruce Wayne is dead! It's been 27 days since Carrie's arrest, and Yindel is no closer to learning why Carrie did what she did. She hasn't spoken a word since the arrest, and the question is why? How did she become so obsessed with a man driven by obsession? After another day of getting no answers as to what happened to Bruce, Yindel gets up, stating that she hopes that she will enjoy her term in Blackgate. But before Yindel steps out, Carrie says something quietly. She says he never recovered. That day 3 years ago, a toad of a man croaked and nearly bested humanity's best. Nearly. But that fight left him broken. For 3 years, she would sit by his bed holding his hand, and he would tell stories about the old days. One day, he said that he was happy that she was there. His parents died together, and he always feared that he would die alone. So she sat there holding his hand, telling him that he's not alone, and then his heart stopped. Yindel asks what happened to Batman's body, and Carrie smiles, telling her, well, she ate it. A few moments pass and Yindel says that is one hell of a story, but it doesn't matter now. Carrie then asks if she just realized that, because whatever it is that she believes, it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, over in Ray Palmer's lab, Ray looks at the shrunken city and Laura asks, why hasn't he tried this before? And Ray tells her that her father and him did, but the results, well, they went horribly wrong. A voice over the intercom comes in telling Laura that she really shouldn't be bothering the good doctor. From the bottle, the Kryptonian Ball steps out, stating that Ray is the Atom, one of the Earth's biggest heroes. Back with Carrie, the GCPD begin their transport of her to Blackgate when she suddenly begins to whistle. The other officers look at her and Carrie ducks. Seconds later, a blast shoots at the transport van, knocking it over, but before it comes to a stop, it slides in front of the Bat Tank. Yindel sends out the call for all of the units that they have a code 7. All units must respond. Everyone chases down the tank to the raised bridge to corner it, and at the last second, an RPG is fired at it. The blast throws the tank into the air and it begins to regain its balance as it comes to a halt. The officer runs to the hatch, flinging it open, but there's no one inside. Suddenly, the thrusters kick on and the tank rockets itself to the drawbridge, and on the undercarriage, Carrie smiles and laughs as the tank lands and speeds away. Back over at Ray's lab, he sets everything up to try and do what him and Clark couldn't do before. Restore Kandor. 1,000 Kryptonians gather at the edge of their city waiting some form of salvation. And with the press of one button, everything turns white. Ray takes off his goggles, crying at the sight. He did it, but there are just as many bodies as there are people. Rick quietly says, "Oh God," and one of the Kryptonians answers, "Yes." Ball, the Kryptonian from before who was helping Ray, points at the man stating that his father is Quar, and he is Kandor's savior. Quar takes his bloody hands and holds Ray's face, telling him, "I am so glad to meet you. You have been such an inspiration." Ray tells him, "No, I've made a horrible mistake." And Quar says, "I'm sorry that you feel that way. Please take solace in the fact that it will be your last mistake." Quar lets go and presses the button on the newly made device, and Ray begins to shrink. He says that he can fix this, but Ball stands over him, telling him, "No, you can't," and he steps on him. Quar then tells the other Kryptonians that they have all had a taste of the air perfumed by the yellow sun, and the others called out that their church was mad. They even called him a monster. He has given them a chance to join them, but sadly they refused. Quar holds up Kandor, and using his heat vision, he blasts through, destroying any remnants of the Forgotten City. Back in the Batcave, Carrie begins to walk up to the terminal, and before her is a man on a crutch, and that man is Bruce Wayne. Without a word, Bruce lets Carrie rest. He knows that he can't go out and help her. He would be more of a liability than support, but that is why he let the fire die out. The problem, though, is the fire isn't out. His body is kindling. He knows that she would go out of her way to protect him and not concern herself with the mission, which is why the fire had to go out. And so Bruce lets Carrie rest, quietly telling her that she did good. He walks to the computer thinking that she will be better at this. She is smarter than him. He was all blood trauma, but her, she is all about finesse. She gets off making the enemy miss. Sure, she could take a hit, but that's not her style. She wants them to know that she's faster than them, and that's the scary part. He begins to watch as the Kryptonians begin to assault the Earth. The ones from Kandor now choosing to conquer it, and at the center of it all is Quar. Quar announces to the world that this is the end of Kandor's oppression. They will rejoice in knowing that they will be saved. They're here to show them how their race is superior to the humans. Quar calls forward his 7 children, giving each of them a pill to swallow. He then asks one of his sons if they feel the Kryptonian fire within him, and his son tells him yes, he does, and he loves him. Next, the sun begins to fall from the sky, and a nuclear explosion goes off. He calls out that that fire is what burns within his children. Some may call it a bomb, but this is righteous. They will destroy themselves to save the humans, and it is now time for the people of Earth to bow down to their new gods and worship them. As long as they do as such, the people of Earth can keep their lives. 72 hours will be given to everyone to meditate and prostrate, to become beloved. Back in the Batcave, Carrie puts her hand on Bruce's shoulder, and he reaches back to hold her hand, telling her that they can't do this alone. As the two travel to the one place where they know they can receive help, the Fortress of Solitude. Bruce takes a hammer and begins to break away at Clark's frozen shackles, shouting that it's time for him to wake up. The world needs you, Superman! But he doesn't answer. Carrie takes a look and says that they are wasting their time. His people are about to enslave Earth and he won't do anything. They should look elsewhere. However, as she walks away, there's a series of cracks, and Superman stands up, shattering the ice, asking, "What did you say about my people?" Back in the world, Laura watches the destructions that the Kryptonians bring, and Quar tells her that there should never be anything that holds her back from being what she is. She is above human laws, isn't she? At that same moment, Superman watches what's happening to the world and his daughter. He falls to his knees, and all he can feel is rage and anger. 3 days pass, and Quar leads his Kryptonian family into the Pentagon, breaking and stating that he has given them their time. What is their answer? Will they accept them as their new gods? Across the screens at the control panel is an image of Bruce, though, and he tells them one thing: go to hell. Quar asks, "What did you say?" And Superman appears before him, telling him, "You heard him right." Quar looks at Superman, shouting, "I did hear, but I would rather spend 1,000 eternities and 1,000 hells rather than live one more day in my glass cage." Then another voice calls out to Superman, and Laura tells him, "You are a traitor to your race." Clark follows Laura outside, and Laura says that this world is beautiful, fertile, and primal, but the ants that rule are destroying it. Clark tells her that he refuses to put himself above humanity, and as Clark reaches out to her, Laura hits him with a heat vision blast, launching him through the Washington Monument. She shouts that it's time for him to make a choice, but all Clark can do is respond to her that he won't fight back. She then begins to beat her father mercilessly, over and over again, until he drags himself to the only place that he can go, his fortress. But before going inside, he looks back at the thousands of Kryptonians and he tells Laura to please stop. She doesn't understand. Laura doesn't respond, and Quar says that the Kryptonians are in a position of authority. How do they find Kal-El? The masses begin to chant guilty, 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 and Quar says, "So shall it be." As Quar holds his hands out, black matter begins to fall down onto Superman, but before he has a chance to react, his entire body is covered. Quar tells Superman farewell, and at that moment, every single Kryptonian team uses their heat vision upon him. The massive heat wave bears down, melting everything until all that's left is a smoldering lake. Next, the Kryptonians use their ice breath to refreeze everything, trapping Superman down below. Quar then announces to the people of Earth that they now have 36 hours to hand over the outlaw, known as Batman. And 36 hours if Batman is not begging for his life. Life on Earth will cease to exist. Back over in Gotham, it only takes 12 hours for the greatest city on Earth to be reduced to a pitchfork and torch-wielding angry mob. The streets of Gotham burn, and Carrie gives Bruce another shot, and he asks if she's heard anything from the Bat Boys. Carrie doesn't answer at first, but then says that she hasn't heard anything for the last couple of hours. Bruce gets up from the table, stating that he needs her to go out on a mission, and Carrie laughs, telling him that it's him against the world. He reaches into a cabinet, pulling out a small box, and she takes it, asking what is it. He simply tells her that it is hope, and then hands her another suit. She asks, "What's this then?" And Bruce smiles, telling her that it's her graduation present. Back on the streets, the Flash runs, looking at everything that is happening around him. There is already only a few of them left, and now people are willing to throw Batman away. But before the Flash could continue through, another force shoots by hitting and snapping his legs in half. He trips and stumbles down the road, and in front of him, one of the Bat Boys opens up the sewer and looks out. Meanwhile, at the top of the GCPD, Yindel sits drinking, stating how they all look like ants from up here. They used to be like a family, but now. But before she can have another sip of her drink, Batman reaches down, grabbing the bottle, telling her that she needs to stop drowning it all out, and he tosses the bottle over the ledge. Down in the sewers, the Bat Boys rush the Flash to Bruce's cave, and as Bruce looks at the Flash's legs, he says that it looks like he was hit by a freight train. The Flash laughs, telling him, "More like a locomotive, you mean? But, can they be fixed?" Meanwhile, under the frozen sea, Carrie travels with Arthur Curry to locate Superman while riding a giant hammerhead shark. She thinks to herself that this is kind of mind-blowing, and Arthur telepathically tells her that it might just be the pressure down here. She thinks, WTF? And Arthur says that it's telepathy. It's an efficient form of communication down here. Soon, he begins to call upon the help of squids to pull Superman out of the frozen waters, and she holds out a small device, and as he asks, "What is that, a needle?" Carrie tells him that it's more of a tuning fork, but a needle works if you look at it from an angle. Either way, it'll penetrate the black matter, and the thing is, it will only work if the person trapped inside wants to come out. She hits the fork and presses it against Superman's casing, and then it begins to crack. Seconds later, Superman bursts out, asking how long he's been in there. It felt like centuries. An Atlantean tells him it's actually only been a couple of days, and Superman says that that was all the time that he needed to do some soul searching. Now, do you want me to save the world? Back in Gotham, Quar and the others watch as the angry mob tears through the city, and he says that those people down there are incredible. He wipes a tear from his eye, stating that they are worthy worshippers, aren't they? And then he hears something as the Bat Tank comes barreling out of the wreckage and stops before the mob. Inside that tank is Batman, ready to fight in his new armored bat suit. Back in the cave, Carrie rides in on Superman, who flies in, and he shouts, asking, "What happened? My." The Flash, who is strung up so that his legs can heal, works away on the computer, stating, Yeah, God, right? I know you were raised as a human, but every time you say, "My God," I want to hand you a mirror. Superman begins to ask, what is he? And the Flash stops him, telling him that he doesn't have time to talk. He's manipulating weather patterns and is currently a little busy, but welcome back. Out above Gotham, the Kryptonians tell them that it is time, and Batman has not shown himself yet. But before they can move, the bat signal begins to shine in Quar's face. Quar tells the Kryptonians to destroy them all, and then it begins to rain. Except that rain is green. One by one, the Kryptonians begin to fall out of the sky, and Batman gets out of the tank, thinking how seeding those clouds with synthetic kryptonite is taking an enormous leap of faith. Thankfully, he had a lot of both. Because the kryptonite is diluted, it's only weakening them, but it doesn't mean that they can't still do damage. Batman begins to fight one of the Kryptonians, and as he punches Bruce back, a hand catches him and a voice tells him, "Don't worry, I've got your back." Superman then sets Bruce back upright, wearing his own metal suit to protect him from the kryptonite. The Kryptonians begin to shout that all Quar wanted was their love, and now they're going to die because they won't. Bruce asks Superman which one of them should shut him up, and as the fighting begins, the angry mob sees that in their weakened forms, even the Kryptonians can bleed. The Kryptonians try to retreat, but Yindel stands with their officers blocking the path, stating that it is time that they bring these people in on justice. Back with Bruce, he grabs the Kryptonian's head and he bashes it into Superman's breastplate and then slams him into the ground. But up in the sky, Quar tries to fly away when the lightning strikes him down near a building. He shouts that he will not fall to an inferior species. He is better than that. And across the waves, one of the Bat Boys takes aim and fires a sonic shot that sounds like hundreds of bats screeching. As Quar falls to his knees, all of the Bat Boys lean out of the building and focus their fire onto Quar. His body is thrown into the next building, and as he falls to the ground, a small drone floats before him, recording his state. While Quar's defeat goes viral, Laura and Ball begin to return to find the ants are fighting back. Carrie chases down one of the escaping Kryptonians, but a civilian stops him by cracking a bat across the Kryptonian's face. The man then turns back to give a thumbs up, and as Ball flies down, he claps his hands onto the man's head with such force that it pops. He then turns up to the sky to vaporize all of the close-by Bat Boys, and Carrie thinks that she has to finish this right here, right now. The thrusters of the tank kick in as she races towards Ball, and as she rams into him, the tank mangles itself around him and then it flips over. He laughs, telling her how totally human of her, and Carrie crawls out and begins to run away. Ball makes it a game to follow her, and once she's cornered, he tells her that he's been looking forward to this. She takes out her slingshot and with a tiny kryptonite stone shoots it into his eye. His face begins to melt as he screams in pain, and he flies off to retreat. And as Bruce watches Ball leave, he laughs, telling her, "Good soldier." As the rain's effect begin to wear off, the other Kryptonians begin to make their escape, and as Superman gets ready to chase after Quar, Bruce stops him, telling him to let them go and lick their wounds. Let them know how fear tastes. But as Quar looks back at the two of them, he focuses his heat vision and releases a concentrated blast right through Bruce. Superman listens as Bruce's heart beats, and then he shouts for him as he pulls the mask off, and Bruce tells him, "No hospital. Promise me that." Superman tells him that he promises, and then Bruce says, "Tell Carrie," but his heart stops beating. When we last left off, Bruce Wayne's heart had stopped, and Superman grabs him, taking him into the skies as Gotham begins to clean up its streets. The news outlets report that the vigilante Batman did not survive the outcome of the battle against the Kryptonians, and Carrie laughs, asking how many times have they heard that one before. However, over the comms, there's no answer. Carrie asks if he's there, and then Carrie notices Yindel walking towards her. In her hands is Bruce's helmet, and all Carrie can do is fall to her knees holding that helmet. Elsewhere in the world, Superman holds Bruce's body, telling him that he's getting old. It's probably just the wind. It has to be that. Back in Gotham, Carrie looks over the city and Yindel asks if it was all worth it. All of the destruction, the loss of lives, which were mostly innocent. Is all of this pain and suffering worth following his principles? Carrie says, what about her? And Yindel says that she won't like her answer. Over in the desert, Clark has finally found something that could save Bruce. The Lazarus Pit. Superman sets his body into the pool and he waits, hoping for something to happen. The water begins to bubble and out of it a hand reaches. Then the body leaps out, attacking Superman, and he wrestles him to the ground, telling him, "Bruce, take it easy. Everything's going to be all right." Meanwhile, over in Amazonia, the baby Jonathan cries while his older sister Laura watches. She floats in the sky, picking the boy up, asking if he missed her. But then Laura could feel cold steel pressing against her neck. Diana tells her to put him down or she'll, and Laura says that she's sure that she would. However, she's not here to test her or be tested. She's just here for Jonathan, and she is not alone. Outside in the trees, the other Kryptonians get into position, and Diana smiles, telling her neither is she. And down below, the Amazons prepare for battle. Later in the Batcave, Carrie watches the footage of Bruce being shot, wondering what went wrong. Barry Allen says that there's a good chance that he might not be, but Carrie stops him, telling him, "What? Bruce is gone. What are you talking about?" She sits at the computer trying to figure out what to do next as the Flash tries to ease the pain, and two shadows loom over the cave. Everyone looks back to see Superman walking back in with Bruce, a much younger and youthful looking Bruce. Carrie jumps from her chair to hug him, asking how he's alive and how does he look so young? And he smiles, telling her, "I've been busy. We all have." Back in Amazonia, Diana stands holding her spear, and the wives of Quar tell her that they are only here for the son of the Yellow Sun. They have discussed it with their master. He is allowing mercy to be bestowed upon them. Give them the child and they will all be spared. Diana responds not with words, but by throwing the spear that she is holding at the wives. The wife in red says, "Fine, kill them all." Back in the Batcave, everyone gets ready to move out when Bruce tells Superman that he really shouldn't have put him into the pit. Superman says that if he hadn't, he'd be dead, and Bruce glares back, telling him that was the point. But before the two of them could argue over the morality of the man dying, Barry Allen sends a message that he's got an incoming message from Diana. Her face appears and she says that she would like to inform them that the Kryptonians have declared war on Amazonia. Just before she finishes her sentence, though, Superman is already gone, and Bruce sighs, stating that he won't make it in time. Back in Amazonia, Diana gears up, telling Laura to give her Jonathan. Laura says that Quar's wives are here to collect Jonathan. Is she implying that she doesn't trust her? As the Amazons stand within their gates, the Kryptonians fly overhead, head and one laughs, telling them just look at them huddled together. Burn them. All of the Amazons hold up their shields, each overlapping another as the heat visions all begin to pour down and they do nothing. Diana begins to charge in from behind with her swords, and as she lands, she rallies the Amazons, and in the blink of an eye, the Amazon Kryptonian blood begins to fly into the air. Diana relentlessly swings her swords, cutting any limb that gets close to her, and the bodies begin to pile up. She shouts to them that they will die before they surrender, and they will never bow their heads to alien tyranny. She can promise that they will be the ones to rule this day. And that's when the Kryptonians begin to hear something flapping. They all look up to see Diana's air unit riding in on many Pegasus. Next, there's a booming coming from the front gates, and as Diana walks over, she begins to see the raining of Kryptonian blood and body parts. The gates are pulled open, and Diana kisses Superman, telling him that it's good to see him. He embraces her back, and she comments that it's good to see him this way. But before the two can go on, the Flash radios in stating that he's sorry to interrupt, but they have a DEFCON 1 at Ground Zero. Quar and his children, the ones who swallowed the nuclear bombs, they've all gathered at the same location, and they started a countdown. Superman jumps back into the air, and Diana tells him that she'll meet him there. Over in the desert, Quar's wives tell Laura that they were wrong about her. She is nothing but a half-breed. She stood idle while the Kryptonians were slaughtered, just watching it all happen. One of the wives grabs Laura by her hair when a green light begins to shine, and a fist begins to float before them. The fist belonging to Hal Jordan. Hal tells Laura to go and leave these women to him, and one of the wives asks if he has not learned his lesson. He laughs, telling them, as a matter of fact, I have. All Laura can do is watch as the emerald light shines and then it fades. Quar begins to announce to the world that there is no point in them repenting or begging. They are rejecting his future, and now it is time for their world to come and pass. Bruce and Carrie listen in as they get closer to Quar's gathering, and just as they arrive, Bruce turns on a sonic emitter. Quar continues his announcement when suddenly bats begin to swarm around all of the Kryptonians. He watches, thinking at first that their natural instinct would be to save everyone, that it would be an aggressive panic, one that is usually at the expense of others. Friendly fire, some would say. The Kryptonians all begin to panic as they fire their heat vision, and in the chaos of the swarm, they end up shooting most of themselves out of the air. Quar picks himself up, shouting, "No, this can't be!" Some of the other Kryptonians ask why they are even doing this. Why don't they just leave this planet to itself and let the ants destroy themselves? Others start to ask the same thing, and the group decides that it would be better if they just got up and left. As a large group flies up, Quar, alone with his other children, light up the sky with their heat vision and turn all the traitors to ash. Bruce and Carrie get ready to jump in, but Superman stops them, telling them, "This is my fight now. I'm not gonna let Batman die after he's been brought back to life." Bruce tells him, "You shouldn't have done that." And Superman tells him, "If that's so, just sue me. You have money to burn. Just watch and see when everyone in the world agrees with me. The world needs Batman." Superman calmly walks up to Quar, and Quar flies down, telling him that he thought him pig-headed, but not stupid. Ball and the others begin to beat into him, laughing, and Superman tells Laura that these people are not what Krypton stood for. Ball pulls back, stating that he's just soft. Now they're going to, and as his fist flies, it's blocked by Superman's fist, and the look in Superman's eyes is rage, pure, unfiltered rage. He scans the children's bones, telling them each place that he's going to strike, and how each bone will be shattered. Bruce watches, and then Clark begins to execute everything that he just said, step by step, with so much power. All of these years he's been holding back, and as he moves, he's already striking while avoiding being hit. There's a certain geometry to physical violence that Bruce likes to think that he's mastered, but after watching Superman, he knows that he is only a student. The Kryptonians might be faster, stronger, and younger than Superman, but Clark Kent is smarter than them. Superman then looks at Quar, telling him that his tyranny is over, and Quar laughs, asking his children, how do they overcome tyranny? One says martyrdom, and once all of the children begin to set off their bombs, Bruce and Carrie step in, and Carrie says that they may as well get some blood on their knuckles before they go. But something appears under one of the feet of the children, as Ray Palmer begins to grow and the children begin to shrink. Before the children can stop the bombs, they all pop one after another, with explosions doing 0 damage. Quar screams that they will die for this. Everyone, everywhere will die! And just as Quar's bomb begins to go off, Laura shoots by, grabbing him, taking him into the sky. Superman gets ready to chase after, but Diana reaches out to stop him, and everyone watches as Laura makes her way into space. She tells Quar no one will die, and she flies straight into the sun, allowing the bomb to safely explode. And with that, 2 months go by, and there's no sign of Superman. In the Batcave, Bruce works tirelessly searching for him, telling Clark that if he is still on the planet, he will find him. He will find his friend. Carrie pats Bruce on the shoulder, asking if he's ready to go on a patrol, and when Bruce looks back, he sees Carrie's costume isn't pink anymore. She tells him, yeah, no offense, it's just the bright colors. Her tastes run darker. Call her Batwoman from now on. Bruce tells her of course, and the two begin to pull down their masks, as Bruce thinks to himself that she has so much intelligence, so much potential, so much that he can learn from her. It's going to give me a much better life from now on.
And there you have it, today's full story. I hope you guys enjoyed, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell right here on this channel, as it will only ever be receiving full stories from the other channel. And if you want to see the videos as they come out, make sure you go check out the Comicstorian main channel, where you get 5 days of videos a week. I'll see you next time.